Today, the world is watching a dangerous confrontation unfold. Iran, Israel, and the United States.
A short time ago, the U.S. military carried out massive precision strikes on the three key nuclear facilities. Tonight, I can report to the world that the strikes were a spectacular military success.
Having
nuclear weapons.
Nuclear weapons. Atomic bombs.
An axis of evil.
Unprecedented, crippling sanctions on Iran.
Iran has been a very dangerous player. They're a nation of terror.
To understand today's tensions, we must go back in time. Back to a period when Iran and Israel were not enemies. In fact, during the 1950s, 60s, and 70s, Iran, under the Shah, quietly cooperated with Israel and maintained close ties with the United States. They shared intelligence, they traded oil, and they worked together against common regional threats. But everything changed in 1979. A revolution swept through Iran. The monarchy of Shah Mohammad Reza Pahlavi collapsed, and a new Islamic government came to power. The new leadership rejected Western influence. Relations with the United States collapsed, and Iran cut all official ties with Israel. In 1953, Britain and the United States helped overthrow Iran's democratically elected Prime Minister, Mohammad Mossadegh, after he tried to nationalize Iranian oil. The coup restored the Shah's rule and deepened Iranian distrust of Western powers, tensions that still shape the region today. In 1979, the Iranian Revolution overthrew the Shah's rule. Iranian students stormed the US Embassy in Tehran, taking dozens of Americans hostage. The crisis shocked the world and permanently damaged relations between Iran and the United States. From that moment, a new rivalry began. Over the decades, the confrontation grew into a shadow war. For decades, a silent war has unfolded in the shadows, not with armies, but with spies, sabotage, and cyber weapons. Israel believes Iran's nuclear ambitions threaten its survival. Iran believes it has the right to defend itself. Scientists assassinated in the streets of Tehran, secret facilities sabotaged, viruses like Stuxnet crippling nuclear centrifuges. Missiles may dominate the headlines, but the real battle often happens where the world cannot see, in the dark corners of intelligence, technology, and covert operations. This is the shadow war between Israel and Iran.
You've probably heard this line before.
Iran has never given up its quest for nuclear weapons and the missiles to deliver them.
That's because Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has been saying this for more than 30 years. In 1992, as a member of parliament, Netanyahu addresses the Knesset. He says, "Within 3 to 5 years, we can assume that Iran will become autonomous in its ability to develop and produce a nuclear bomb." 3 years later, in his book Fighting Terrorism, he repeats the same time frame, 3 to 5 years.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Fast forward to 2002. Netanyahu testifies before a U.S. congressional committee actively calling for the invasion of Iraq.
Are there any other nations that you would recommend that the United States launch preemptive attacks upon at this point?
The two nations that are vying, competing with each other, who will be the first to achieve nuclear weapons, is Iraq and Iran.
The invasion happens months later. No weapons of mass destruction are found in Iran. This is a fragment of a 2009 US State Department cable released by WikiLeaks. Netanyahu tells members of Congress that Iran is 1 or 2 years away from being capable of developing nuclear weapons.
They're online.
It's 2012, and Netanyahu is holding up his infamous cartoon bomb at the UN General Assembly.
By next spring, at most by next summer, at current enrichment rates, they will have finished the medium enrichment and move on to the final stage. From there, it's only a few months, possibly a few weeks, before they get enough enriched uranium for the first bomb.
And now, 33 years after Netanyahu's first so-called imminent warning, Israel attacks Iran.
If not stopped, Iran could produce a nuclear weapon in a very short time. It could be a year, it could be within a few months, less than a year.
That's despite the US Director of National Intelligence saying Iran isn't building a nuclear weapon months earlier.
Iran lied.
But for Netanyahu,
Big time.
the slogan has been the same for decades.
In late February 2026, the Middle East was pushed to the brink. Israel and the United States launched a massive wave of strikes across Iran, targeting nuclear facilities, missile bases, and senior leadership. Among the targets, Iran's most powerful figure, Ali Khamenei. According to multiple reports, the Iranian supreme leader was killed during the opening phase of the assault. For more than 3 decades, Khamenei had been the ultimate authority of the Islamic Republic. His sudden death sent shockwaves through Iran's political system. Inside Tehran, emergency meetings began immediately to choose the country's next leader. Across the region, tensions exploded. Missiles were launched, alliances shifted, and the long shadow war between Iran and Israel entered a dangerous new phase, a moment that could reshape the Middle East for years to come. For years, a shadow war has been unfolding between Israel and Iran, not always in the open, often in silence. Inside Iran, several mysterious explosions have struck military and nuclear facilities. One of the most notable incidents happened in 2020 at Iran's Natanz nuclear facility, where a powerful blast damaged a centrifuge production center. Iran called it sabotage. Many analysts believed it was part of Israel's covert campaign to slow Iran's nuclear ambitions. The conflict didn't stop there. Several Iranian nuclear scientists were killed in targeted attacks over the past decade. Among them was Mohsen Fakhrizadeh, widely described as a key figure in Iran's nuclear program. His killing in 2020 shocked the world and deepened tensions across the Middle East. Behind these operations, intelligence agencies are believed to play a central role. Israel's intelligence service, Mossad, has long been linked by analysts to covert actions aimed at disrupting Iran's nuclear and missile development. Israel rarely confirms these operations. Iran strongly condemns them, and the shadow conflict between the two rivals continues. A war fought not only with missiles and armies, but with intelligence, sabotage, and secrecy. In 1980, Iraq's leader Saddam Hussein invaded Iran. The war would last 8 brutal years. At the time, the United States saw Iran as its biggest threat in the region, especially after Iran's 1979 Islamic Revolution. So Washington quietly began supporting Iraq. The US provided intelligence, economic aid, and dual-use technology to help Saddam's military. The goal was simple: not to help Iraq win, but to make sure Iran did not. As some policymakers famously put it, better that neither side wins. The strategy worked. By 1988, the Iran-Iraq war ended in a bloody stalemate.
Donald Trump cancelled all the deals and imposed sanctions on Iran again.
President Barack Obama's administration negotiated a deal with Iran's President Hassan Rouhani. It limited Iran's nuclear facilities in return for sanctions relief, but not everyone saw it as a success.
Never, ever in my life have I seen any transaction so incompetently negotiated as our deal with Iran.
Just 2 years later, everything changed. In August 1990, Saddam Hussein invaded Kuwait, a small oil-rich country and a key US partner in the Gulf. This time, Washington turned against him. The United States built a massive international coalition and launched Operation Desert Storm. Within weeks, Iraqi forces were driven out of Kuwait. The same Iraq that had once been supported against Iran was now the enemy. A dramatic shift in geopolitics, and a reminder of a harsh truth in global politics. Today's ally can become tomorrow's adversary. In the mid-2000s, the silent war was already underway. Iran was rapidly expanding its nuclear program, building thousands of centrifuges to enrich uranium at the Natanz facility. Israel and the United States feared that Iran could eventually develop nuclear weapons. But instead of launching bombs, they chose a new kind of weapon, a cyber weapon. The operation was secretly known as Operation Olympic Games. Its goal was simple: sabotage Iran's nuclear program from the inside. The weapon they built was called Stuxnet, not a missile, not a drone, but a computer worm. Stuxnet was designed to infiltrate the computers controlling Iran's nuclear centrifuges.
And look, this is not just me saying this. The New York Times has a big piece on how Trump went to war, big deep dive, and their opening paragraph, Raju, the opening paragraph begins with Benjamin Netanyahu walked into the Oval Office in February to make sure that Donald Trump stays on a path to war. Netanyahu went on Fox last night on Sean Hannity's show and just laughed maniacally when Hannity said, "People say that you made Trump do this." It is very clear that this is a war for Israel. What American national interest is there? 6 American service members have been killed. Who's going to tell their families they died for nothing? Gas and oil prices are going up in a country where affordability and price rises, inflation has already been a huge political controversy. And of course, all of our allies, the Gulf allies, are saying that the US is not a protector of the Gulf. If you're in the UAE and Qatar and Bahrain, you used to look at the US for protection. They were your shield. Now you're getting bombed by Iran and the Americans can't protect.
the U.S. is involved much more directly.
The U.S. has been hitting Iran for a very long time.
Iran is today the world's leading state sponsor of terror.
This is terrorism that is part of a pattern.
Be working on over the next several weeks a significant regime of sanctions. The international community is unified around Iran's misbehavior.
That designation opened the door to even tougher restrictions. By the 1990s, Washington targeted Iran's most important industry, oil. New laws punished foreign companies that invested in Iran's energy sector. The goal was simple: reduce Iran's income and limit its military and nuclear ambitions. At the same time, Israel was raising alarms about Iran's growing nuclear program. Israeli leaders warned that a nuclear-armed Iran could threaten the entire region. They shared intelligence with Western governments and pushed strongly for tougher international action. Soon, the pressure expanded beyond the United States. The United Nations and European countries joined in. Sanctions began targeting Iran's banks, shipping companies, and nuclear technology. By the 2010s, Iran faced one of the most extensive sanctions regimes in modern history. Oil exports dropped, financial networks were cut off, and the economic pressure campaign became a central tool in the global effort to slow Iran's nuclear program. The conflict fought not only with weapons, but with economics and diplomacy. The war between Iran and Israel is no longer confined to two countries. Its shockwaves are spreading across the entire Middle East. Missiles, drones, and retaliation are now threatening neighboring nations. Countries like Jordan, Bahrain, UAE, Saudi, Qatar, and Oman have already seen missiles and drones crossing their airspace or striking targets during the conflict. In the Persian Gulf, the situation is becoming even more dangerous. The Strait of Hormuz, one of the world's most important oil routes, is under constant threat. Nearly 20% of global oil supply passes through this narrow waterway, and any disruption could shake the entire global economy. Oil producers like Kuwait and other Gulf states are already taking emergency measures as tensions rise. But energy is not the only concern. Across the region, flights have been cancelled, airspace closed, and civilians are searching for ways to leave affected areas. Meanwhile, Iran-backed militias in countries like Iraq and Lebanon have launched attacks against Israeli and allied targets, opening new fronts in the conflict. This is what analysts fear most: a regional war, one where multiple countries are pulled into the conflict. The Middle East has seen many wars before, but this moment carries a new level of uncertainty. Energy markets are on edge. Global economies are watching closely, and millions of people across the region are wondering the same question. How far could this conflict spread, and what comes next? History has shown one thing: wars in the Middle East rarely stay contained. One strike leads to another, one retaliation leads to the next, and in the middle of it all, millions of lives hang in the balance. The world is watching, waiting for what comes next. This conflict is no longer just about Iran or Israel. It is about the future of an entire region, the alliances, the power struggles, and the fragile balance of peace. The real question is this the beginning of a larger war, or the moment the world finally steps back? What do you think will happen next? Tell me in the comments.